You realize you're trans, or maybe you're still figuring it out. What do you do now? Even thinking about transitions can sometimes be so overwhelming and daunting. Your looks, how you socialize, legal stuff, your relationships, they all change. Where do you even begin? I have 3 tips for you on where to get started. My first suggestion is to build your support network. This isn't traditionally thought of as part of transition, but I think it's a really important part. Most trans people are really going to need a support network. There's a lot of things that are really difficult about this process. You need somebody who can help you through it, who can dump your stuff to when you're struggling, who's non-judgmental, and can help you navigate the complexities of what you're going through. They don't necessarily have to be trans, they just need to be a really good friend. A good support network won't judge you if you change your mind, as you go at your own pace, aren't sure what to do, aren't sure about things. They'll support you on your self-guided path because this is your transition. This is your identity, not theirs. As part of this support network, I do recommend finding a good trans support Discord. Connecting with a broad community of trans people can be incredibly helpful. It's kind of the quickest way just to jump into a little bit of a support network, and it gives you a place to ask questions, see people go through similar circumstances, ask for advice. Gosh, the feeling of being like empathized with by some of the trans people in those groups was so important for me. One of the trans discords I'm in has class years of people who started transition within the same year, and you kind of see everybody grow together. If you're looking for a smaller Discord, I just launched a Discord as part of my Patreon community. If you want to join, you can go on Patreon. Free membership level has some basic access to the Discord community. Higher tiers have greater and broader access. You can interact with me directly there, as well as provide feedback and input on these videos. I really do rely on Patreon support to really support this channel, to provide for my kids. If you find this content helpful and want to see more, maybe you could consider supporting me. I would really appreciate it. There are other great Discords out there as well. Well, like I found them through Google, so that's another option. Another thing that could be incredibly helpful is a local support group or a local group of trans people that you can, or even just LGBT in general, that you can connect with. The local center near where I am has weekly game nights that I sometimes go to. Those are a lot of fun. They also have a trans girl support night, and they also have trans mask and like a variety of other support groups for all variety of trans people, LGBT people in general. And those can really help you open up with some of the more difficult aspects and see positive improvements in real people's lives sitting across the room from you. That's kind of a really special experience. I still remember the first time I went to the trans support group and just went out to dinner with all the girls after, and it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of groups across the US, particularly near larger cities. Often even smaller towns will have some type of group. Another really important aspect, if you can afford it, like not everybody can, is finding a therapist. Particularly finding one who is qualified to diagnose you with gender dysphoria would be great. And they can help you through all sorts of issues with gender dysphoria, rejection, exploring your identity, which is really important. I think it's really good to have professional therapy if you can have access to it and afford it, which I know is kind of hard. I don't have a therapist who can officially diagnose me with gender dysphoria quite yet, because I have a longtime therapist who knows a lot about me personally and a lot of the issues I've gone through, and is a very affirming therapist. But I do recommend, if you can afford it, to go get some therapy. Another idea that I think is so important is finding a close ally friend. I know a lot of people in the trans community are disconnected. They are isolated because of the gender dysphoria and a lot of the other rejection that might be going on. But I really do think that if you can put in the effort, it is definitely worth the reward. It can take a long time to find this, but if you can be patient and kind of just put yourself out there a little bit slowly over time, do visit some of the local groups, and just be a good friend. Don't make it about being trans. I actually found my now best friends playing D&D online. Like, I just found a D&D group. I didn't even know I was trans yet, but I found a D&D group and I played D&D with them for, I think, a year before I figured out I was trans. Actually, 3 of the people in that group ended up being some of my best friends ever. 2 of the girls there were like my besties, my chosen family that got me through a lot of really hard times. I still remember the first time that I went to Sephora. I was wanting to learn how to do some makeup and I was really scared, and like, I still looked very masculine at the time, but I needed to get color matched for foundation. I didn't know how to do it personally, so I had to ask one of the store associates for help. I almost chickened out, but these friends really kind of encouraged me to go, and then I sat on the phone with one of them outside in the parking lot for like 15 minutes trying to get up the courage just to walk in the store, much less do anything. She was there with me all through the process, and even helped me after, stayed on the phone with me and helped me pick out like some eyeshadow and that kind of stuff. She was Googling what the different eyeshadow palettes were on the other end, and she's like, yeah, get that one, don't get that one. Can you test this one? How's it look? I would send her pictures, that kind of stuff. It was a huge help getting through one of the most difficult moments in my transition, like just from the awkwardness phase. They were there with me every step of the way, and I think having that really good friend who is a cheerleader for you is huge. The rules of normal friendship apply here. Like, you can't just like go find someone and say, I really need a friend, can you be my support? Like, you have to actually develop a genuine friendship, which does take time. And I know this is so difficult. They are out there. People who can be your friend are out there. It just takes some time to find them. So if you have things that you like to do, like playing D&D or games or like whatever, bowling, I don't know. If you can go do those activities and then find people along the way, that's probably the best approach to do it, because then you have a natural connection. It's not just about this trans thing between you. One note though, I wouldn't hide the fact that you're trans. Telling people that you're trans is actually a really easy, quick way, if uncomfortable, but it's an easy, quick way to weed out people who are just going to reject you outright. And kind of sense how affirming they are. At the end of the day, not every friend has to be your bestie either. Like, even if you just have good friends who are affirming, even if they're not your best friend, that can be a huge help. I have a few of those that I meet with occasionally, and we just talk and chat and catch up and share what's going on in each other's lives. Definitely keep working on building your support network. As you do that, what's next? One of the most important things early on is to start to experiment with social transition. And this can be just like in private, kind of starting to dress differently, try out some makeup, different, just different things to present as the gender that you're trying to transition to. And you can kind of try it on, and this is all reversible. There's no like permanent side effects of this, right? Assuming it's a safe place for you to do it. And some of the things that I tried early on, like putting on some of the dresses, made me feel worse because I just looked like so blatantly a man in a dress. But then some things like just made me feel much better, like wearing women's pajamas and going to sleep. And I immediately did things like starting to grow up my hair, like doing those kind of long-term, non-permanent changes is important, I think, to get started early. My hair's been growing for a little over a year now, and this is it. Like, it was very short. And this is about a year and 3 months of growth, I think. And I cannot wait until it like fully grows out so that I have a ponytail, but like that just takes a long time. So getting started on those things early is great. Hair has been one of the big things to help me fight gender dysphoria. As my hair grew out, it really started to frame my face. And if you're older and you happen to have any balding, starting to reverse that balding can be really helpful. It's important to kind of get on that and get that started to start to deal with that part of your dysphoria. The other thing is that there's lots of hairstyles, that even short hair, that are feminine. and you can kind of get androgynous hairstyles so that you can switch back and forth between boy mode and girl mode as you're trying things out. If you were growing your hair out the first time like I was, you'll need a good hair care routine. I was using Head and Shoulders at the time, which is like has sulfates in it and kind of like strips your hair or makes it unhealthy. And you want to keep your hair healthy to get it to grow longer, faster. I have curly hair, so I always recommend the Shea Moisture products. I will put links in the description, Amazon affiliate links, if you want to check those out as well. Another big, huge thing for dealing with gender dysphoria for me that was kind of like an immediate, quick, kind of made me feel relief was tucking. For trans masc, it probably is the kind of equivalent would be binding their chest. I don't know much about that. I do know that for binding, you need to do that with something that is intended for binding to do it safely. You can really hurt yourself if you don't, so keep that in mind. I can help you with the tucking thing though. Tucking ends up being not that complicated. I mostly end up just wearing 2 pairs of panties. Over time, HRT will also shrink your genitals, and so things like the whole area down there tends to shrink on HRT as a trans woman, so it makes tucking easier. And what all you do is you just fold your thing down underneath your crotch and then pull your panties up at the same time. What I tend to do is I have a whole set of bikini briefs that are my kind of like my primary against the skin underwear, and then I use this, which is specifically for tucking because of how it's made. It's kind of secure and firm, and it really gives you a nice smooth look. And that is huge for me. I stay tucked all the time. You do need to be careful of, make sure you stay clean and dry down there. As long as you stay on top of that, I think it's okay. I don't know that there's any real strong research one way or the other, but I definitely stay tucked all the time to kind of keep that dysphoria at bay. And it makes me feel actually quite feminine, and you cannot tell. I do have another method. Again, all these links are going to be in the affiliate section, the Amazon affiliate section in the description. But there are also tucking kits, which I use when I am wearing my bikini to the beach. And they are very effective at being very, very secure and very well tucked down there. As you tuck, one of the other things that you'll notice is that your gonads are actually, your balls will go back up into these cavities, which is where they originally descended from. And so they kind of get up and out of the way and they're protected. It's actually really comfortable to be tucked, to be honest. As you go on HRT and you've been on HRT for 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, it becomes kind of like really effective. So speaking of HRT, this one does have permanent side effects. So I would think carefully about this one. But if you are trans...
Editor Ashley here. I just wanted to mention that not all trans people need to take HRT. Some of them don't, and they don't want to or don't need to. But my main point here is that if you're going to take HRT, starting sooner rather than later is better because it takes a long time. Okay, back to the video.
HRT can be such an immediate dysphoria release. It takes those like that really intense dysphoria and kind of softens it quite a bit so that it's more manageable. The longer you're on HRT, these like massive bouts of dysphoria where you're just like, oh my gosh, where you feel terrible and feel so out of place and not like yourself, those become farther and farther apart. HRT takes a long time for the full effectiveness. It's basically you're going through a second puberty, so it takes several years to get through the bulk of it. It's not like you take the pill and then suddenly you have permanent side effects that you can't undo. Like you have like, I think a couple weeks or a month before anything really starts happening. It is an option to try it and see if it kind of has that immediate dysphoria reducing effect for you. For me, it was huge. Not everybody has that sudden dysphoric release. I did. It was pretty much immediate, and within 48 hours, there was a night and day difference in my dysphoria. I mean, that's kind of when I really knew for sure that I was trans, is when I got on HRT and it relieved the dysphoria, and it had so many other amazing effects so quickly. I was like, okay, this is, I was right. I was really, really right. This is who I am. I am trans. I haven't regretted transitioning for a second. I certainly, if you're in a country where there's a waiting list is long, I certainly recommend getting on that waiting list immediately. If you're in the US, go to Planned Parenthood. They do, what's it called? Oh, informed consent. That's what, yeah. They do informed consent. So they will tell you what the side effects are. And I highly recommend doing your research on what the side effects are beforehand. But they will tell you what the side effects are, and you can say, yes, I consent, and then they will prescribe you the medication. The side effects are just the... It's weird that they call them side effects. It's like the side effects are the primary things that I want this to do to me. I want, I want the physical changes that are the quote-unquote side effects of taking estrogen and blocking your testosterone. I'm going to do another video on all of the side effects of HRT, both like the most commonly known ones, and then there's a whole list of side effects that just people discover after they've started HRT that you may not know about if you just look at like the standard research side effects. So I'll include those in there as well. After you've kind of started working on your support network, and after you started experimenting with social transition and potentially HRT, my third and final tip is to manage your focus. Don't try to do everything at once. Manage your focus on what your transition, the most dysphoric thing for you is. And that's what I would focus on. For me, early on, one of the huge things was my voice. My voice is still not where I want it. And you can hear, you know, if you pay attention to the recordings, you can hear I'm not fully consistent. I'm kind of continually refining it. But early on, I was able to kind of shift my voice out of my chest and change the resonance in a way that made me feel a lot less dysphoric. And every time I improve my voice, it makes me feel even better. Your voice may not be it for you. Voice may not be your primary issue, but whatever your primary issue with dysphoria is, I would focus on that thing, because that's going to give you the most relief, and it's going to kind of limit your time and energy spent on your transition. And because this is a process. This takes a long time. It takes multiple years. Yeah, manage your focus. Only work on one major thing at a time. If you are interested in my video on HRT, I will link that here when it is out. Otherwise, I hope this was very helpful, and I love you all, and have a good